Welcome to the next episode of the GSD Golf Podcast. I'm your host, AT, and as always, it's great to be here with you. It's great to be talking about the world of junior golf. It's great to be talking with parents of junior golfers. It's great to be talking about amateur golfers. It's great to be talking about golf in general. But this week, we're super excited. This week, we've led up to this point. I feel like as this podcast has evolved, we've been talking a lot about the world of junior golfers. We've been talking a lot about parents of junior golfers. We've been talking with college recruiting coaches. We've been talking with PGA professional golf coaches. What should junior golfers, what should amateur golfers be doing on the range? We've been talking with mental golf coaches. What should you be doing to get your mind right for the game of golf? We've talked with the recruiting coaches, Jared, the recruiting coach. Now, this episode of the GSD Golf Podcast, we are lucky enough to have a Division I student athlete, golfer, joining the program. And we're super excited to take a walk down memory lane with this special guest to talk about his experiences from the time he started playing golf through high school into college, how he made the decision on college, which college he was going to go to, and what comes next after a collegiate career. So please join me in welcoming Trent Griessel. Trent, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I know you were getting a little kick out of the intro, next episode instrumental. It just makes me smile. So, we're just having fun with it. I love the intro. Welcome to the show. How are things going, man, at University of Texas Arlington?
So far so good. It's been an up and down journey. But yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful to be where I'm at, and so no complaints.
That's awesome. Let's if you don't mind, let's kind of walk through this process. So you talked about earlier, you and I talked a little earlier, and you talked about you've been in and around the world of golf for probably what feels like a lifetime, right? When did you first start playing the game of golf? And then as a piggyback to that, when did you realize this might be my sport?
Yeah. So I mean, I've had a golf club in my hand since I was 2. So there's pictures of me way back when, with me and my dad. We'd always go out on Sunday afternoons and play 9 holes, and I'd start from his drive, and I think my love for the game just kind of progressed from there. But I was really just any sport I was in. I mean, my whole life I played basketball, football, soccer, a little bit of tennis, and then golf as well. So I mean, I was everywhere. As long as I had a ball involved.
Well-rounded athlete, right? You had the ability to play them all. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think I was always very just athletically prone, and I knew that I wanted my life to be revolving around sports one way or another, and I knew that I had college and professional aspirations in sports. And I think by the time I got to about 8th or 9th grade, I realized that I was a little too short for basketball, a little too small for football, and not very good at soccer. And I was like, hey, well, I'm pretty good at this golf thing, and I also happen to love it. So it was kind of my
settled in. Genetics plays a key role in that, right? When you realize that you're not going to be 6'6", 6'7", you can't drop step and dunk from outside the box, or you're not, running a 4.2 40 or something like that. This kind of settles in, but not a bad spot to fall in golf. And so you're in 8th and 9th grade, and you're like, hey, I got a knack for this. And high school comes next. How does your high school career go? And when you were in high school, were you more focused on the high school team, or were you more focused on maybe some of those junior tours that are out there to participate in?
Yeah, so I had a very unique high school experience. I grew up in Seattle.
Okay.
That's where I played most of my junior golf, and then there's a big storm. It might be lightning in the background, but I grew up in Seattle. I played my freshman year of high school in Seattle. Okay. So that was the only year of team high school golf that I played.
And you went Division I? Talk to me about this, my friend.
It's a bit of a crazy journey from there. So I played that 1 year. I mean, I went to a tiny private school. It was like 1A, not very competitive at all. It was kind of it was mostly really for fun. And I had my, Hurricane junior events and AJGA events that I would play. That would kind of be the main sort of source of competitive golf for me. And kind of halfway through my year, or my freshman year in Seattle, I decided that I wanted to go to IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida.
You're heading there next month. I can't wait. I'm going to pick your brain on that. We're heading there next month. But I digress. Continue.
Yeah, so I attended IMG Academy for my sophomore year of high school. I was only there for 1 year. I had a blast, but it just wasn't for me. And I also got an amazing opportunity to move to Dallas and then start working with my now coach Cameron McCormick and Nick Dunn at Altus. So, but just to go back there, I really struggled my sophomore year at IMG. I played probably some of the worst golf, I'd say, in relation to, how skilled I was that year. And that was really the first kind of large amount of activity that I'd faced. And so then I really just came to Dallas, and that's when things really started to kind of turn around. And that's when it was like, okay, well, I can definitely play D1 golf. And it happened really fast. And I credit just to having, just being fortunate to have amazing coaches and people around me. I was very fortunate that when I moved to Dallas, I got a great mental coach, great swing coaches, great mentors, and then awesome friends that I was able to play golf with. So, but even when I moved to Dallas, I didn't play high school golf. I basically did online school because it was right around when COVID happened.
Yep.
So no high school golf. I just played the local NTPGA events, Legends Junior Tour, which is a big thing in Texas, and then AJGA events.
Let's talk about that if you don't mind, because I think that's so fascinating, because I think golf is probably one of those sports that, and I don't want to diminish the high school experience or the high school playing, but a lot of these junior tours really are where some of those coaches and the visibility comes from. A lot like maybe AAU basketball is. There's that opportunity to get the visibility. But I want to talk about, let's go back to, you said your sophomore year, you maybe had some challenges, some setbacks, just life in general, just being a teenager. Just can you elaborate maybe on what those types of things were? I think because what we hear in talking with parents and even some of the junior golfers, same thing we see in these hurricane tours is that they have that setback at a tournament or setback at an outing, and that leads to another, and that leads to another, and they start to compartmentalize that maybe they're not a good golfer. And to your point, you just needed to change the scenery, get with the right people. Talk a little bit about that experience in the transition.
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, I was very fortunate that I had parents that were super supportive and able to, be like, I want to move to Florida. Sure thing.
Right. We can make that happen.
I was 15 years old when I decided that I was going to move to literally the other side of the country away from my parents. And they've always been supportive of me and chasing my dreams. And so I've been very lucky there. But I mean, the journey of pursuing anything, I mean, any sport, any career path, similar, you're going to have so many points where you just have a ton of adversity that you have to face. And that's just kind of the nature of it. Some are going to have a much greater uphill battle, especially in the junior days, because it's definitely the time where natural talent definitely plays more of a factor than maybe later on in college golf when kids have a chance to catch up a bit, I would say. But I think honestly, it really just comes down to grit and being able to work your tail off and just go out there and do what you love, really. I mean, you just got to have grit and love it. And I think from there, you're in a really good place. The
grit is so key. And it's interesting. You're probably the third or fourth person I've spoken to in the last 3 weeks when we were talking about student athlete. Matter of fact, just last night I was picking up Simba at one of his friends' 8th grade graduation, which is crazy. We're talking about 8th grade, but I was sitting with one of the other parents, and his son plays basketball. And we were talking about the same thing about how the younger generation needs to have that little bit of grit, right, to get them through the tough times that maybe you went through before you went through that transition?
Yeah, I definitely had a surplus of obstacles that I had to overcome kind of early on in my golfing career, which I'm very thankful for, because I think it really just it certainly made me aware of the fact that it's never going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy.
Nothing really in the world of golf has ever come easy to me. I mean, I progressed in the sport. I got better, but as far as, accomplishments or trophies and stuff, like every win I had as a junior, every milestone that I hit, none of it felt easy, or that, it was effortless. I mean, it felt like I had to fight tooth and nail for,
there's a grind, right? Which
yeah.
probably made you appreciate, right? When you grind that hard and then you achieve an accomplishment like playing a Division I school, that's got to feel rewarding, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, to be able to play Division I golf anywhere is awesome. And then be able to have gotten the opportunity to play at a school that was in Dallas, in Texas, which was exactly what I wanted. It was definitely a dream scenario. So, by the time I had the opportunity to choose between a few schools and commit to UTA, it was definitely rewarding. That's for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. You moved to Dallas, IMG. You depart IMG. You moved to Dallas. It sounds like you put together a nice little support system. Got matched up with some coaches, swing coach, the mental coach. We've been talking with Ben Esposito from In the Golf Zone. He's a mental golf coach as well. I think sometimes junior golfers and the parents of junior golfers just think the kid's an athlete, they can work their way through it. Talk about how maybe that mental side of the game changed for you at that moment and how that has helped you move forward.
Yeah, I know. I think the mental side is huge. And it's obviously every kid is in a position to hire a mental coach
right.
when you're 15 years old or 16 years old. But there's certainly things that are readily available online that you need to get cracking on as soon as you possibly can. I would say it's more important than a swing coach or, once you have the basic fundamentals down, the mental game in golf is just really everything. That was the turning point for me, was when I started getting the mental stuff right, or at least starting down the journey. Cause I've been working at it for years and years, and I still have a long ways to go in many ways, but it's massive.
I'd have to assume that Division I athletes like yourself, high school athletes, I have to assume, and we've seen it, for anyone that watches, Full Swing on Netflix, there's a whole 2 episodes around the use of a mental coach or not using a mental coach. So I think that's something that I think the game of golf, and probably every professional athlete, every higher level athlete probably has to leverage in some capacity. You mentioned earlier that, you've had to grind to get to where you are, and it made you a little bit more appreciative of some of those accomplishments. Hearing you say that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe you didn't always score where you wanted to score in some of those matches, and you had to kind of fight through. You weren't maybe a prodigy that went out and at 14 you were shooting 68, 72s. You were probably, grinding through that. Talk about those experiences and how that made you the golfer you are today.
Yeah, so you're pretty much spot on. I did progress in the game very quickly, but I was really late in many ways. Like I played golf my whole life, but I only played my first AJGA event, I think, when I was 15, 16 years old, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and some of these kids are playing at 8, 9, 10 years old.
Exactly. So, and I'm sure you're familiar with the star system and how all those tournaments work. I'm trying to get into these events, and I don't have any stars because I've never played in these events. So I was more so just kind of behind the 8 ball on competitive golf than I was from maybe a skills standpoint.
Sure.
Which also kind of hurt me because I'd say for the first year I played competitive golf, there was probably a 10+ shot discrepancy between when I was playing golf with my dad or if I was playing golf in a tournament, just because I had never felt what it felt like to play in a tournament before. So I was chucking up monster scores in tournaments when I first started, and it kind of took me a couple years to really settle into it and sort of get a feel for it. So I mean, but yeah, no, my early days in competitive golf were not pretty. They were
I have to assume dad has seen you out, like you said, you were playing 9 holes, and he's seeing you play and probably bounce around and shoot pretty well, and then he sees the competitive and the results are not matching up. I'm just sure there were some conversations at the house like, what's going on here, man?
Well, I mean, my dad's always he's pushed me to be the best I can be, but he's never really been hard on me. I think my parents realized that if anything, they've had to do the opposite because I'm so hard on myself.
Yeah,
they kind of had to be more consoling than anything because I would beat myself
almost like a psychiatrist for you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, I'd get back and, I think it was, especially in my early junior days, it was get a hug from mom. And then by the time I'm done crying or, moping around, then my dad can, come over and maybe give me some friendly advice. But I mean, yeah, but it's never been anything but just kind of loving support. But my dad's always done a good job at sort of playing a support role and kind of knowing that he's dad and, he's not a golf coach per se. He tries, but,
and it's so different being a parent to being a golf coach. And we had to separate that as well. And I want to go back to your point. I think there's parents play really key roles in this, but I think understanding what that role is probably huge, right? I'm not a swing coach. I'm not a mental coach. I'm a parent. And I think your parents probably went through that as well. So you started to progress in the junior golf world. You got an offer, a couple offers. How did you figure out what was the right decision for you as far as school? I know you're based in Dallas, so getting an offer in Dallas probably felt good. I got to ask before we go any further. I have to ask: are you a Cowboys fan by chance?
I'm not. No.
Okay, good. We can continue the conversation then.
I'm a diehard. Yeah.
Okay. I'm from Philadelphia area, so we have the Eagles fans, Cowboys fans. We have it's a rough rivalry, but you have the Seahawks, so you guys are pretty good too. So how did you make the decision? You had a couple offers. You had to look at some options and make a decision.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I took on the strategy of the second I could start sending emails. Mm-hmm. I was sending them. I was slinging them out. I mean,
far and wide. How did you narrow it in?
Far as wide. I knew I wanted to play. I wasn't gonna. I was like D1 or nothing. I mean, really, in my mind. I mean,
fair enough.
Now with hindsight, I realize that there are a lot of actually very great D2 programs, some that are probably even better than a lot of D1s.
On rival with some of those D1, right?
Yeah,
they probably get some of the money and some of the things that they can do.
Exactly. Yep. So, but at the time it was, I want to play D1 golf. So I sent an email first. I typed out my draft and, whatever, and you changed the, some stuff. But yeah, I sent it to every single Division I program in the country.
Not bashful, are you, my friend?
So that was my first net. And that was before COVID. And, I actually got a lot of great responses. And I actually at the time I wasn't playing what I felt was, top tier Power 5 Division I golf, but I piqued a lot more interest than I anticipated, really. And then COVID happened and the net got a lot smaller because of fifth year returners and the new transfer portal and everything. So, by the time it came decision time, I had a few D2, D3 and NAIA JUCO schools reach out to me, but I wasn't very interested in those. And I had those offers, but, I only really had 3 options, for Division I golf by the time it kind of boiled down to it. And, UTA was just it was really a no-brainer between the 3 just because
location, it probably felt right.
Exactly. I knew some of the guys on the team already. I knew I was going to be close to my coaches, which was awesome. I love Dallas. It was just all around. It was a good decision.
That's so awesome. So Trent Griessel, I said that right. Trent Griessel, UT Arlington, Division I college golfer, joining the GSD Golf Podcast. Trent has walked us through his path as a junior golfer. We're now in the phases where he's going through college. What's college golf like, man? It's got to be busy. It's got to be hectic.
It's crazy. It can get a little crazy. It's very unlike junior golf. I'll put it to you that way. You're on your own on a lot of things. Like there's nobody really holding your hand. At least in my situation. I mean,
yeah.
The plane leaves when the plane leaves. The bus leaves when the bus leaves.
Gotta be there, right? Not there, you're out.
Yeah. And you're gone a lot. You're traveling, and it's always during the week. So you're missing a lot of school. It can be a bit of a toss-up whether your professors are accommodating with that or not. And so you kind of just have to deal with it a lot of the time, and you just have to be very proficient with your time and making sure that you don't get behind the 8 ball, because it can be very easy to
catch up, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's
I think that's interesting. I think a lot of student athletes, a lot of young junior golfers, at the house we were watching, I think there was the collegiate championship that was on. I think they were playing in California the other day. And we see all these schools come together and they're playing, but nobody thinks about they're missing class. So what happens when they have to go back and make up class? How does that work as far as with all the travel? Do you get the coursework ahead of time? Is it something you have to make up when you get back? Is it, you said not every professor's kind of treats it the same. So is there like, how do you manage that?
Well, I mean, in at least at UTA, all the assignments you can see online. So, we're everything's pretty paperless from that perspective. It's more so, I mean, so you have that working in your favor. It's just more so the fact that, although they can't give you a 0 on an exam, I mean, you might be flying back at 1 a.m. on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night, and then you're expected to make up that exam at 9 a.m. the next day, right?
Yeah.
And then you're also expected to have been studying that entire time that you were at the tournament, playing 36 holes, traveling, all that sort of stuff. So it's, it's not, although
there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot to it. The expectations are there, but that's what I think when we talked with one of our previous guests, we talked a lot about how from the outside, people sometimes look at student athletes, college athletes, and they're like, oh, they're privileged. They get, they got all the swag, they get the travel, they get all this other stuff, but they don't see the hours that go into it behind the scenes, or the hours that you're expected to, as you just said, to study while you're on a plane getting ready to go play, in a match to represent the school and so on and so forth. So that's a challenge in its own right, I would have to assume.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not for the faint-hearted, and you gotta love it. You really gotta love golf. I mean, honestly,
we talked about that mental side, right?
Yeah, if you don't want to be here, if you don't love golf, I mean, it'll wear you down really fast. But that's the great thing, and I think something you definitely have to remind yourself of is, playing D1 golf is voluntary, right? You choose to be here, so you get to do these things. You don't have to, even though it can kind of feel that way sometimes. Waking up at having 6 a.m. lifts, the entire year, it can, after a while, it definitely it sneaks up on you, some days. So,
yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about that. That's that in its own right. I think, again, with our focus on junior golfers and some of those younger kids, it's so funny. I talk to parents as we walk through the Hurricane Tour events and some of these other events. Hey, do your kids hit the gym? Do your kids exercise? They're like, nah, he doesn't feel like he needs to. And I'm like, if I know myself, if I could go back and do it again, the physical training I would put into my body, you just mentioned the 6 a.m. lifts. Talk about how demanding it can be from a physical perspective.
Yeah, I mean it. I'm not gonna say that we're in there. We're not deadlifting, 1,000 pounds, or like, right. We see some of like the track and field throwers, and, our lifts look a little different. I mean, we're still, we're doing our own version.
Sure.
But it's more so, I mean, at least what I was speaking to is the kind of just, you're expected, there's a lot of time that's expected of you. And it requires an extreme level of kind of balance or work-life balance, if you really even have that at, our age. But, to wake up at 6 a.m. and on a weekday with the traveling, with practice, with everything, if you're not very on top of your time management, it
committed
really,
to it, right? Also,
it spirals very quickly, and it'll really hit you like a truck when it does. So yeah, it's important to stay on top of it if you can.
So when you talk about the schoolwork, you talk about the lifting, the physical training of it. I think let's also get into what is a day in the life, of a D1 golfer look like, from wake up to that head hits the pillow at the end of the day. Can you run us through what that might look like, or is it so vastly different for each day?
No, it's pretty standard. I mean, obviously semester to semester, it'll change because you have different class schedules.
Sure.
But for my last semester, like a Tuesday, I would wake up at 5:50, pretty much just get dressed, whatever, have a little snack. I head to lift, where we wrap up at around 7:30. From there, I myself work out 6 days a week. Plus our lift. We have lift Tuesday, Thursdays. So on those days, I'll just go and I'll do my own lift immediately after that, at my gym in my apartment. And then from there, if I have a little bit of time, I'll go to the course for maybe an hour before class at 11. I was lucky this last semester. I only had 2 in-person classes, so a
lot of virtual activity. So you had more,
exactly.
Time, but that's where time management comes in, right?
Exactly. So so then so I was able to then after that get the practice in a little bit before class, and then pretty much me and everybody else on the team, we're all done with class, I'd say between 11 to 12:20 every day. And pretty much from there, weather willing, I mean, we're at the golf course from then till sundown, just about every day.
And you talk about the team. How many student athletes are on the golf team at UTA?
We have 11.
You have 11 kids. 11 guys, 11 student athletes. Do all 11 travel with you when you go away? Is it?
No, it's just 5. It's just 5.
So only 5 travel.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, when you put it in perspective, I come back to what you were saying about, you emailed, you drafted your letter, you sent your letter to every Division I program in the country. God bless you for that. Postage alone, right? But you went that route. Not every school has openings every single year. So it's really unique when you get in there. So when you get a spot, I'm assuming it's really competitive to keep that spot.
Yeah, and especially now with the transfer portal being as though it's kind of like it's just
they can go wherever they want, whenever they want.
Coaches realize, they're like, why would we take a shot on some untested freshman from wherever who just played junior golf and junior golf courses when we can get a junior or senior that we know has played college golf and we know what scores he's shooting and he's already been through the system. We know,
more stable environment, right?
Exactly. So that's, I mean, it's like that in my program. I mean, it's like that I'd say in most. So yeah, if you're an incoming freshman, it's probably as hard as ever to get a spot. And also more importantly to play, right? Yeah. Because you're no longer kind of in the linear progression of equal freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Now you're on a team where if you are fortunate enough and skilled enough to get in as a freshman, you're competing against mostly seniors.
Some of them are 4th-year seniors. Yeah. Some of them are 5th-year seniors. And I think there's do we still have the COVID year running around too?
Yes, we do. So I've had a 6th-year senior on my golf team. I think the last 3 years, or this next year will be my 3rd year with 6 years on our team. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Eventually they're gonna pace out, right? And it'll kind of settle back down to what you perceive as normal. But to your point, those kids that are graduating high school. So you graduate from UTA in 2025, but those kids that have been, 22, 23 high school grads, they've been in that same environment where it's probably tougher to get recruited.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about that. 2025 is coming quick. You got your eyes on the prize of what comes next. What steps are you taking? What are you progressing towards in your development to prepare yourself for because it sounds like in our conversations you have desire to continue to play golf. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean that's been my aspiration since forever.
Since 2, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, nowadays with how many routes are available, as far as specifically what route I take, it's gonna kind of just depend. So I'm just gonna kind of have to see how this year goes, and then see what doors may be open because of that, or whatever route just makes the most sense.
And when you talk about routes, a lot of people at home might not understand what you're saying. So if you don't mind, just to take us down that path. Some of it is competing in qualifiers. Some of it is other outside tours that maybe are professional tours, but they're not the PGA Tour directly. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Well, yeah. So nowadays you have the newly kind of minted combination, the PGA Tour Americas.
Yep.
Which is now sort of a feeder tour into the Corn Ferry.
Yep.
Then obviously you have the Corn Ferry. That's the traditional developmental tour,
forward,
PGA Tour. And then you also have Q School, which you can go straight through Q School and actually get straight into full status on Corn Ferry. And then, but that's the crazy thing is if you go to Q School and you go on a run, you can be on the PGA Tour in less than a year.
That quick. Now, Q School, if you fell out, I hear that's it. You're done. You don't get another chance. Is that accurate?
No. Well, you can come back the next year, but yeah, I mean, you're as far as your hopes of getting immediate status, yeah, you're cut. But thankfully, out of the 3 stages, I believe once you make it past second stage, you're guaranteed at least conditional status on PGA Tour Americas or Corn Ferry. So from there, you'll be able to kind of be a alternate or at least play in all the Mondays if that's the route you want to take. And that's just how some people do. I know I've had a few guys on my team who've graduated who've done exactly that and are having awesome. A lot of success that way. So
that's really awesome. So having the dreams, having the goals, you're not giving up on the path. I love the desire to make it there. I think as we get ready to wrap up time with you, Trent, first of all, very grateful you've taken time out. I'm sure you're busy. It's Sunday at school. You got a lot of things head going on. If you can give us, maybe 1 or 2 things that, the junior golf world and the parents of the junior golfers or even amateur golfers, if there's one piece of advice you would give to those people that are trying to progress their golf career, what would that be?
Biggest piece of advice. Get the right people in your corner. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know what I would do without the, because I was definitely deliberate about it. I don't think it. I mean, I was definitely fortunate to have the people come into my life, or have the opportunity. But I definitely was very deliberate about the people that I've kept around and the coaches I've kept around me and the people I've kept around me as well. Yep. I mean, honestly, I think even if you boil it down to let's say that you don't have the money for a coach, you don't have the money for whatever, just find good friends to be around. Hell, they don't even have to play golf as long as they just support you and they love you and they're kind of like-minded and they help kind of propel you in the right direction. I think that's great. But bonus points if you can find people who are in pursuit of a similar goal to you, makes it a lot easier to get up and do the hard stuff.
So true.
But yeah,
so true. So Trent, before we let you go, you got any big tournaments coming up?
I it's mostly qualifiers for me for the next little bit. I think June is pretty much, I think I have 4 or 5 qualifiers and then essentially just kind of see where that lands me for the rest of summer. I actually have one tomorrow. But
busy day.
So I think it's hopefully I'll be able to get into a few, and then God willing, July and August is chock full of many tournaments.
Well, we wish you all the best. We love the journey. We love the story. We're going to be, you got fans at the GSD golf community. We're going to keep eyes on you and wish you all the best. But thank you again for joining the program today. We're super happy to have you. Really thrilled for your future and all the wisdom that you shared today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Trent Griessel. University of Texas Arlington, Division I college golfer. What a story. What a path he walked us through. Trent, thank you again for joining the program. We wish you all the best as you head towards your professional career in golf. We're big fans, and you'll have fans at the GSD Golf community following you along your journey. Thank you so much for joining the program. GSD Golf family, community, as always, we continue to get shit done on the course, and we do it in Hurdle Apparel, so we're a little bit more comfortable along the way. Let's go.